Man, that's downright mindful.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
I don't need backups. I'm going to Harvard.
Remember these words. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Do or do not. There is no try.
I still have a dream.
Welcome to Downright Mindful, a meeting place where we explore meaning, seek connections, and examine the relationships between people, events, and the ideas that shape our world. Hosted by me, Matt Paris, my friend and colleague Paul Sawswell, each episode will dive into thoughtful conversations that spark reflection and curiosity. Thanks for joining us. Now let's get right down to it. All right, welcome back, people. You're listening to Downright Mindful. I'm Matt Paris, one of your hosts. I'm here with my friend and colleague Paul Sawswell. Say hey to the people, Paul.
Hey, people.
And we're joined by our producer, Josh, the tech man Morris.
Hey, guys.
Oh, he's got a nickname now.
Big time. We're moving up in the world. We got a couple episodes underneath your belts here. We're moving up.
We rolled out some social media this week. That's going really well. People
Big
are doing
time.
a really good job of sharing our post and, clicking our podcast. We got quite a bit of listens on Apple and Spotify and those places. And we're on Amazon and iHeartRadio and places like that now, which I don't know. Are people using that a lot?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, mine's mainly on Spotify or Apple.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised. Like, I was going through mine the other day, and what was it? There was, like, PodNet or Pod things, and, like, once you put it on Spotify, it, like, automatically connects without you knowing to these other sources. And I was like, who knew?
Yeah, and that's what I'm learning now is, like, I'm really just putting this in kind of one place, and it's throwing it everywhere for me. So everything's a learning process. So that's a big learning curve for me, and it's been pretty cool to watch, man.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's been cool to be a part of this experience with y'all.
Thanks, man.
Super awesome.
Thanks
and
for
it's
the
great
nudge.
to, like, you talked about people listening, and you can see those analytics or whatever. But it really starts with, like, your friends and your family, just, like, even if they don't listen to it, which most of them are, but, like, just sharing it. And once then, like, it's like your Facebook feed. Then it starts understanding you what you want, and then it starts popping out more places. And, the depth of people that are going to find the show are unimaginable. It's just getting that, AI.
So what he's saying is the numbers are going to tell us what to talk about.
Is that? Yeah. I mean, I guess
maybe
this is where this is going.
But I think, like, some of the things, like you talked about Conan O'Brien, like, I've listened to a couple of his, and I don't know if he has, like, a process for who he's talking to or what's going on, but it's just conversation. Yeah. And it's fun to listen to that conversation, or them to start horse laughing at each other because they've said something appropriate, inappropriate, and it's just funny.
Yeah.
So people listen to you, not just, some of it is, I think, based on your content, but some of it's just they just genuinely love your conversations. Like, there's a guy that I listen to, Jeff Bradbury, and sometimes, like, his content's not for me, but it's just fun to listen to.
Yeah. You're kind of following his story, following along. And like Conan O'Brien, he's a variety show in himself. I mean, some people were just put on this planet to entertain, and that guy's one of those guys.
That guy.
So you got that part, and then last thing I'll do, because I know we're on a little time crunch today.
We are,
because some of us coach. But what I love about this, like, podcasting, like, I know what you two look like, but it's always fun to listen to people that you have no idea what they look like. You haven't looked it up yet.
I've still got some podcasts I listen to. I have no idea how they look. Yeah.
But when you finally see them, you're like, there's no way. There's no way that's who's talking.
Yeah.
Because it's like reading a book. You have this picture in your brain.
Josh is making all my insecurities flare up right now. All I'm thinking about right now is what people think about me.
No, I'm sure people are going to see your faces because, Matt's put us out there for the world to see. They're probably like, man, those are some good-looking guys there.
Well, for those of you that haven't seen Matt, that's me. I'm about 6'4", 215, athletic build. I'm getting older now, so I'm not as chiseled as I once was, but I'm just playing.
Now we got the profile building.
I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing that's been cool about watching this podcasts sort of enter the podcast spaces and even social media now is people commenting on what we're talking about. Like we've got a couple of like little Apple iPod reviews from people. I think we got like 3 of those this week.
Nice.
And I've had a couple people send on our social media page. They've sent messages and how much, I love this part of the podcast.
What'd they say?
I want to go to Brushy Mountain. Well, I was about to say that's something that I want to probably start sharing on our podcast and maybe even reading out loud at some point. I'm not prepared to do that this episode, but
So you're not going to tell me?
no, not right now. I will say that our local friend Brian Patterson, who owns he's one of the owners of Sweet Emmeline's Cheesecakes. He's sent me a really thoughtful message last night and talked about how much he enjoyed our podcast. We only have 3 episodes out at the time of this recording, and he was like, "I listened to them all yesterday." Like I love the conversation,
And that's
man.
good cheesecake.
And that was how I ended my message back to him. Was like, love the cheesecake, man.
Sounds like we're a little sponsorship deal. We're going to be eating cheesecake, recording.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's fun to see those things and hear those things, and because we said all along that I believe that we're having conversations that people may be interested to hear, and I'm seeing that that's at least true for the start right now. So. For those of you listening, man, it's so much appreciated, and it's so helpful to reach ears who probably wouldn't hear us, for you to like and share those things. So if you take the time to do that, let me just say from person to person, thank you so much for that help. It means a lot to us, and it means a lot to each person around this table. And I know it's going to help us with, I know there's some guy sitting out there in his mid-20s, and maybe he's teaching, maybe he's a young police officer, or maybe he's into technology and he's trying to teach tips and tricks to whoever. And I want our voices to hit his ears, and not because we have all the answers, because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we're talking on these microphones because we feel like we have a bunch of answers, are we?
Buddy, I'm just bringing questions.
Yeah,
it's just a way of sharing your voice, sharing your story.
That's right.
Yeah, and I want people to hear some guys that are asking questions. We have questions, and we try to direct those questions in a way that will improve our lives and the lives of people around us and in our day to day. So that's kind of how I've geared the way I want to pose a few questions to you guys today. A little bit of a lighthearted questions, but on a certain level, these can become as deep as you want them to be. And I'm going to let Paul Salzville do that Paul Salzville thing he does and add the philosophy in here. So we'll see where that goes. But first one, you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's say I am sitting in a restaurant with my family and I'm eating dinner.
His back is to the wall. He's in the corner so he can see everybody come in the door. So let's just make sure everybody knows where Matt Paris is. I just find the first available seat. So I just wanted to set some context.
Well, that's not what this point of the topic is about.
I'm
but
not
yes,
wrong. No,
you're not wrong.
No.
If at all possible, I'm going to face the people. I'm going to put my back to a wall, and not because I don't trust people, but just because I don't trust people.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'm sitting here and I'm eating with my family, and somebody walks in the restaurant that I know. I could know them really well, or I could know them in a like, hey, how's it going kind of way. Tell me if you've ever been in this moment. Do I shake their hand while I'm eating my food?
Yeah, totally. It's almost like that Ricky Bobby effect. Like we've all been there. Like, what do you like in the movie? Like, what do I do with my hands? Right?
Yeah.
Like sure. I've been in multiple situations. Like you go somewhere and you have no thoughts, nothing to do. Like you could shake their hand, you could give them a fist bump, you could put your utensils down, but really, what do you do? Like there's moments in my brain. It's like, what do you do here?
I'm gonna go wash my hands if I end up shaking that hand, though. I just will. Yeah, I'm that guy.
So
I'm not it's not a germaphobe thing, but I'm eating right now. I don't know where your hands have been, even if I like you a lot. I'll hug before I shake a hand while I'm eating. What do you think about that? Full stand up, full embrace.
Is that what you're probably doing in this situation?
Do I know them?
Yeah.
Well enough to hug, and I'm a hugger. So
what if you and I haven't seen each other in a month, and you're at Chattanooga, and you've got Sarah, and you take her out to this restaurant, and me and Val just walk in.
When was the last time I haven't seen you for a full month?
It's been a while. I'm just trying to hypothetical this thing.
I mean, hypothetical with that, like, I'm probably going to get up and go find you. Like, if I haven't seen you in a long time, I'm not going to wait for you to walk by my table. At some point before I leave, like, I'm going to get up and go talk to you.
You need more of an acquaintance in this situation?
Yeah, it could be.
This is
not someone that you're seeing daily where it's just like, hey, man, how's it going? Good to see you.
Yeah.
This is I don't know. I think of like, oh, I know you well, but maybe it's been a while since we saw one another. That's the kind of encounter I'm thinking of here. Okay. And I also have to flip it to the other end. What if it's not you sitting and eating? You walk in and you see that person with their family sitting.
I'm a hand to the shoulder. I see him, hand to the shoulder.
Okay.
Because I don't want to shake his hand.
What
He's eating.
If he sticks out his hand?
I'm going to shake his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So that's kind of where I land on this. Because I've been in this situation so many times. If you go to a restaurant in Cleveland, Tennessee, you're going to run into somebody that you know, but you maybe haven't seen in a while. And if I'm the guy that walks in and the person's sitting there eating, I'm usually giving them the option. I'm going to say the hellos and how you doings and all those, and I'm going to let them decide, are you offering a handshake or are we just going to because we understand. Like, I know this question's going in his mind. He knows it's going in my mind. I'm going to leave that up to them.
I like the fist bump.
You like a fist
bump? I think
bump?
that's a good compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like you're going to leave that up to them. Like, if I'm walking up to a table, I'm going to see what they're going to do. Like, if they're eating and they're not putting their hand out, sure, I'm not going to force my hand, not going to do anything. Just, hey, how's it going? But if that hand comes out, fist bump or handshake, or they stand up to give me a hug, I'm going to do those options.
Or grab a fried pickle because I know them that well.
That is fun when you know that person.
That's the Paul Salzville move. He's going to grab a fried pickle for sure. For sure. So
onion ring? Yeah. Not one French fry. No one does one French fry. But you can do one onion ring, right?
You can do one onion ring. So, Paul, you've raised 3 boys.
Yep.
How much is handshakes and those manly encounters coming up in your household in the last 10 years?
Like, how do we embrace each other now? Or how have I taught my kids how to interact in social circles?
What's the conversation when you're talking to your boys about how to greet someone?
Let's see where we're going. Eye contact is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Because you're still reading the room, just like what you're saying right now. Some people just want to give a fist bump. Some just want to give a handshake. But that eye contact and squaring up, let people know that you're right here. Because as soon as we start looking away, our nonverbals are saying all kinds of stuff. And so just be aware of that. And, I've got 3 boys. That's 3 different personalities. And Seth is now living in that world where he's meeting new folks. He has the chance to be that voice within the group. He's in an education cohort where he is taking some initiative. And he's riding that kind of natural high of going, it's kind of fun being this person that volunteers first. It's fun being that person who will introduce someone to someone else.
Yeah.
Because he's really relied on other people to do that a lot. But now, new season of life, new place. He's in Cookeville. That's his spot. I mean, that's not mom and dad's spot. Mom and dad, Cleveland, Lee University. Mm-hmm. For a guy like me, going from nothing to something. Shoot, I was Sarah Habermas's boyfriend, and then I was Sarah Habermas's fiance, and then I was Sarah Habermas's husband, and then I don't. This is just for fun. I won't stray too far, but she went to the bank. Was a couple years into teaching. The teller saw the name and was like, "Hey, are you Mr. Salzville's wife?" Oh, I was in. I finally there one time in Cleveland, Tennessee, where I wasn't Sarah.
Turned the tables.
But that comes all the way back to just. Caleb is running in some circles at UTK, engineering circles where you got to get to know people, and you got to let people get to know you.
Yeah.
And then Isaac is just, man, he's coming into his own, man. I mean, he's a good dude. He's a good looking dude. He's a quiet fella, but it's fun to watch him lean in certain situations that I don't see coming, and just see him interact. I mean, even if it's just with you, right? You know what I'm saying? If we go to your house for supper, or we just see him in the gym. I like to step back a few steps and see how my boys interact with other people, just to see, because I mean, they're of the age now, almost 17, 19, 21. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's been fun to watch from a distance, because, watching him over the last 10 years or so, that there was a time that guy was like Spider-Man. Like, he's going to go up to the top bleacher in the corner of the gym and not talk to anybody.
That's right. And be content.
And perfectly content.
Yeah.
But now he's, we're in the hall and he's eye contact and how are you? It's just
cool guy head nod.
Yeah. Cool guy head nod. We do that sometimes, for sure. For sure. Josh, are you to this place yet in fatherhood?
No, I have not too much with my girls. Like, it's more like, hey, talk to people. Like, they want to shy away and not say hi. Like, even like my parents, grandparents, anybody, they want to shy away. So, hey, just at least tell them hi. Give them, because, hugging, right? Give them a quick little hug goodbye. Like, just one arm, like trying to slowly play that. Yeah. Handshakings, we're not there yet. But speaking of handshaking, I can remember, like, growing up, being a boy, handshaking is important, eye contact, all those things. But I had an uncle. And every time I shook his hand, it was like a death grip. He would hurt my hand.
Everybody's got one.
And he's like, listen, no, you got to shake harder. And being a young kid, I'm like, all right, I got to do this harder. And I can remember shaking some people's hands and I'm like, ow. And I had to learn, like, it's too hard. But my uncle, he's probably 70, 80-year-old now. And every time I give him a handshake, I have to squeeze hard.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, you're getting strong. And it's like, but he's squeezing my heart and it's hurting.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, you're I think the ability to know, yes, you're going to handshake, but knowing, like, the tension, I guess, to do it.
Yeah.
Learning that and learning the eye contact, or certain things that just become natural after a while.
Yeah. So what do you do in those moments when someone shakes your hand and it's like they handed you a dead fish and it's just the limp little, do you make assumptions about their personality based on that?
Sometimes, yeah. I'm like, that's weird. What?
Is it off-putting for you?
It's weird. Like, and sometimes you understand certain people. That's just the handshake they give you.
Yeah.
And maybe because, like, growing up, that's just handshake. Just give a handshake. Doesn't matter about the feel. Doesn't matter about the touch. You just kind of give one.
Yeah.
Or then sometimes on the other side of that, I'll give people a handshake, and their handshake is really firm and really nice, and mine's like, "What are you doing, Josh?" Like, that was
the
totally
internal dialogue.
Like, you're thinking like that. I need to redo. Can we
hang on,
redo that?
Let me try this again. Yeah.
Oh, I've done that. If it's a decent acquaintance, hey, can I give you another handshake?
Yeah.
And you just get a chuckle out of it. But I mean, like, it's a decent greeting.
Yeah. We put too much thought into this. In your opinion?
You obviously have, but I'm having fun.
Yeah. I just mean over time. Are we, those of us who have done the, eye contact and a firm grip.
No, we talked about it. It does matter. But what I found, so when someone gives me not a firm handshake, my, last 4, 5, 6 years, I can go with this, I guess. I'll put that second hand on top of it. So you didn't give me much of a handshake? All right, so we'll do this thing. And now it's that 2-hand embrace where I don't know. I don't even know why I do that. I don't know. You got me thinking. See what you do to me. But I mean, it's just, hey, I see you. So you're not offering me much. So I'm going to offer you a little bit more. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on that? I'm ready to move on.
No, I like the 2-handed thing. I've never really thought about that.
Yeah, think about it.
But that sparked, like, sometimes when I haven't seen someone in a long time, or maybe, I don't know if it's maybe position or just their person in general, they'll do the 2-handed thing.
Yeah.
Or if it's like a serious, like, I need to tell you something before I leave, and they give one handshake and then the other one goes on top. It just maybe means a little more than just, hey, here's a handshake, goodbye. And I'm going to give you that 2-handed one because I need to tell you something important.
Yeah, that's right. Anything out of the norm, I think, is just, it's subtle and it's significant. Like, I mean, if I know I'm about to hug somebody and they try to give me their hand, I give them a 5 to slap it out of the way. And then I do that with my boys all the time. Caleb, you're doing that thing again. It's an affectionate thing he's saying to me. He even did it this weekend.
Yeah.
But, I slap that hand away, the embrace, and then hit to the heart.
Yeah.
But all that, we're that family, though. We're affectionate. We're physically affectionate that way.
Yeah.
So.
Were your boys ever physically affectionate by, like, scuffling with you?
Oh, heck yeah.
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 Kyler was that
Yes.
kid, man. And it took me a long time to realize, like, we do this. It used to be like WWE every evening. That was our thing. And it later became one-on-one in the driveway every evening. That was sort of our time. But it took me a while to realize, like, this is sort of satisfying a love language for him and for me, too. Like, this is my boy. We're roughnecking. We're roughhousing. And,
but Seth got real big real fast. And now what Isaac is right now. But, like, Caleb will still... we've wrestled in recent days where, like, he just wants to, what are you doing? But now they do it because Lucy, that's my dog, my golden doodle.
Yeah.
She goes bonkers and she attacks me. So she thinks I'm bothering anybody in the house.
Yeah.
Like, if I push him or just do anything funny, hit him on the arm, here she comes. And full, paws, claws out, like scratching at me. Like, stop it. But, so they'll keep egging her on. And so it's the thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. You bring a unique perspective to this conversation because he and I are raising boys over here, and
girls.
You've got these girls. How's that? Y'all roughhouse with girls, or how's that work?
No, I don't think I roughhouse a lot with them. When I was little, I can remember like one of our first vacations. We got this house with a pool, and I'm throwing my daughter like 15 feet in the air, and she's like loving it.
Yeah.
And then you got my wife that's like, stop it. What are you doing? And so I've had to learn a little bit that roughhousing. And then even like I've got a nephew. Same age as my youngest. He's 7.
Yeah.
And like, let's roughhouse a little bit, And he does not like it.
No.
And it's hard for me not to do things. Like, I have to work on it. Like, you give a hug to a boy, right? You're going to squeeze them a little tighter, mess with. I squeeze my girls hard sometimes, and they'll squirm, and it's just funny. But then for him, I've had to learn, and that's hard for me to learn, like, to not do it. Because there's times he's like, I'm not giving you a hug. Uncle Josh is too rough.
Yeah. Man, listen, I've got a nephew that I'm pretty sure if you gave him a knife, he'd stab me. He'll kick me square in the shin, and like, it's on me because his mom in the past would go, hey, you're being too rough. And I'm like, hey, you don't have to tell him that with Uncle Matt. Like, we're on an agreement. He understands that we have this thing. But it'll be pretty soon. It'll be like the Kyler scenario. He'll get big enough to where I'm like, hey bro, Kyler almost knocked me out one time when he was about 7 years old. Anyways, I'm going to turn the corner. Tell me real quick the age ranges of your girls again.
7 and 9.
7 and 9. All right. So this next one, I don't know if you're there yet, but if you haven't been there, it's probably coming. I'm pretty sure you've probably been here. Maybe I'm the only one in the world, but how about when you've got that kid in the back seat, or in your case, those kids in the back seat, and they're at that age where you see someone holding a sign, hey, I'm hungry. I don't have any money. And they say, hey, Dad, you going to give him money? Or they say, why aren't you giving him money? Or, hey, why's that person doing that? What's that conversation look like? Now, approach this from a perspective of like, there's no right answers here. We're asking questions, but I can give you, this scenario has probably happened to me 2 or 3 times, and I bet the answer was a little bit different every time as Kyler progressed through certain ages where he had the ears to hear certain concepts. But Paul, what's the message coming from mom and dad in that car when those boys are young and they don't understand and they want to know, they're curious?
Before it was a conversation, they had already saw their dad roll down the window and give money. Mm-hmm. They had already saw their mom roll down the window and give whatever she had, a bottle of water and a box of Cheez-Its. These are real stories coming from our house.
Sure.
They already saw us in downtown Atlanta, Nashville, Detroit. I'm the kind of guy in this season of my life, this second half of my life, where I'm taking a knee. I may even full sit. Mm-hmm. If they're sitting, just ask a story, ask their name, shake a hand, have that 30-second conversation. So they've already seen these things as we've traveled. All my boys went on a 10-year-old trip with me, and that's probably where the conversations actually started. Because all we did was just go travel for 10 days, see what we see, stop where we stop, process things in the moment and later on. And I mean, we still bring this stuff up, so when we started having those conversations and they started asking legit questions, of course it comes up like, what if they don't use that for food? They had a middle school class conversation and it came up.
Yeah.
Those are legit questions. We honor those questions. But I had to, even as a young man, start to make my decisions of, and this is where I land. Let's just go all the way to the end. I'm okay if they end up spending that money on something else. I wish they wouldn't. Go get a meal. But I mean, we've put people up, if they needed a night to stay. If we've had the means, the situation was discernible, because we've had that conversation as well. I don't give money to everybody, because you read the moment, you read the scene, you read the setting, you make a decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can walk away and go, yeah, I got that one right. That was a quality exchange, soul to soul. Sometimes it ain't much at all. Still drop, whatever that dollar amount is, some change in my pocket. And then there's other times where you just know what I'm talking. It's kind of that unspoken. It's the things that are so difficult. And I think this is where you're going. So difficult to explain to your kids at 12.
Yeah.
But we're now having it at the age that they're at. And I get it, Dad. Yeah, there's some people, they're not there. Their body is there, but they're not there. And so to even engage might even be a dangerous situation. So you've got to discern. But money isn't the issue in these conversations anymore. It's that very human soul that definitely has a story.
They ever get to the point of like, Dad, how'd that guy get there? Like like a conversation maybe on decisions or circumstances or things like that ever come up?
Well, I've got enough stories to tell from my earlier days, from my Ohio days, to where, we've got friends and family and friends of the family where it's just like, they made some choices or circumstances have crashed into them and you just ended in a particular place.
Yeah.
Or like you are now desperate. And then, there's the addiction conversation that's embedded in all of that. And, I mean, what can we do to help? Well, the bare minimum is at least some eye contact, at least a cool guy head nod. Maybe a handshake, maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's time to walk by. So these situations that you're bringing up are always good situations of how to figure out that sometimes you just don't know. And it's not in the end right or wrong. It's not in the end good or bad, but it's what's the wisest thing to do in this moment. And we've probably landed there a couple times and what that conversation looks like.
Yeah. Now I have the benefit of, Kyler being at an age now to where he's beginning to be able to see some of that landscape and sort of understand. It was really hard to explain at first because there's this whole conversation of that person could have burned a lot of bridges and made a lot of bad decisions that landed them right there. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
It could have been that some of those bridges were burnt for them. Maybe the bridge was never there. It was never built.
Yeah.
Maybe they never had the bridge. They started out on a path that they couldn't see clearly. So him being at an age now where he can start discerning some of that himself is awesome for me. It's a lot less difficult to conversate with a 20-year-old than it is an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old that's sitting at a red light with you. Are you here yet? Are your girls asking these kind of questions?
It goes back just kind of reading the situation. Like sometimes they're just oblivious to things that are happening. Sometimes they'll ask, and it depends on like what the sign says. Depends on the situation and kind of how much information you give. For the most part, I don't think they noticed that. They did it at a certain time. And so like when we talked about things that we can maybe do, like making a little bag. So when we see those people, we just give them a bag. And I'm in the spot now, like maybe it's just me in general or just the generational thing. I just don't carry a lot of cash. And so I don't really have much to offer, and I don't really carry water bottles or stuff in my car, snacks. So I don't know. I think it goes back to just reading the things. Mm-hmm. And I know sometimes the conversation we continually have is sometimes, again, like burning bridges or things that have happened in your life that have put us in these situations. So I continue to talk to my children about they're just very fortunate. Like, we're fortunate to be able to go to Target today or Walmart or go to eat. Like, and some of these people just don't have that luxury. Mm-hmm. And so this is just what they, I guess, resort to, or these things they have to do to kind of make ends meet. And whether they're going to use it appropriately or not, I think that was my mindset for a long time.
Sure, me too.
And even just kind of hiding that from my kids, that idea. But I can remember I went on a trip with my dad as an adult somewhere, and some guy just, they certain people will, I guess, just walk the parking lots, and
yeah, sure.
But without placing that judgment, you just try not to know. Mm-hmm. And I can remember this guy walking up to my dad, and in my brain automatically, like, I know what this guy's doing. And my dad didn't even think, pulled out $20, $40, here you go. I'm like, Dad, why did you do that? He's like, it's not for me to judge what they're going to do with it. And that was it. And I'm like, that changes the mindset. So I think as we experience those things with your kids or as an adult now, you have to remember those things. They're just I don't know, you just can't judge them for that. You can't worry about it. You're going to do the right thing, even, do the Christianly thing to show the love. And I talk to my kids about showing love to people, how people view you, I guess, in a way. And so it's just the nice thing to do is to do that. But we don't always do the right thing. We don't always, our brains and everything else, impact that.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to go to the scriptures and we're going to talk about, Jesus wasted a lot of time on some folks. Mm-hmm. Just wasting time. We're going to have to define what the word waste means in this situation.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, I love wasting time. You're with people, you're just wasting time, that's a good time.
Yeah.
You're in a different situation, you're wasting time, but then that feeds a lot of frustration within us. So we have to define that. But hey, that perfume, it's a great waste. Leave her alone. Let us have this moment. If this bothers you, then don't be in this moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think where we often go as well, coming back to our family conversations, it's like people are people. So if I give this $10 bill, this person could go get a meal. They could get, sometimes it's, hey, can I get some gas money? Mm-hmm. Okay, they could get gas, or they could go get whatever else, that they're going to do. But you put yourself in any other situation, and now we're in Target, and now we're observing people just going up and down the aisles, and you're hearing conversation. And there's going to be decent people saying decent things, purchasing wisely. And then you're going to have people that are just, entitled or ungrateful or just mean, ugly. People are just people.
Yeah.
So whether it's, poor people, whether it's middle class people, whether it's just rich people, people are people.
Yeah.
And, we don't discover who someone is until we take notice. And we've always wanted our boys just to take notice. Mm-hmm. Take notice.
Yeah. Notice those things. Yeah. And even like this I thought popped in my brain. I can remember taking my girls 2 years ago. So that means they were 4 and 7 to New York City. Right? Mm-hmm. And walking down Times Square, and you've got all these people, and you can visibly tell they're on something or something's happening. Mm-hmm. And then having to have that conversation of, well, Dad, why are they dressed like that? Where are their clothes today? Or why are they screaming at people?
Yeah.
And then it came to, listen, just keep your head straight. Let's not look at anybody. We'll talk about it later. Don't ask me now. Yeah. We'll talk about it later. Yeah. And sometimes they would forget, thank goodness, because I wasn't prepared. And I'm sure you both have had your kids. Your kids have these conversations. You're like, I'm not ready for this. I cannot do this.
4 and 7,
today.
It's about safety. It's about physical safety.
For sure.
But later on, we're going to pause. We're going to slow down. We're going, because I'm always looking, what's about to happen, because there's that physical safety, the Matt Paris within me, making sure my family is. But I also, and I want to take that chance. I want to take that risk. I want to see, hey, just see some people And shoot, I like being seen as well, you know. And when you really start engaging in a conversation with someone you never thought this was going to go anywhere, that's some cool stuff.
Yeah.
That's worth the trip.
Yeah.
It's worth the effort. It's worth the risk.
Huh. Final thoughts on that?
These conversations are never done, man. I don't even know what that question
I have to say, this is a tough one for me because I went through, you know, I was a dad early. I was a young guy as a dad, and you know, there were those times when I'm trying to do the right thing and ask the right questions and be mindful in the right way, and then I'm a drug detective and I'm working to, you know, criminal informants that are going to make a drug buy for me, but they got this guy in the car with them. I'm not going to name any names or tell you where's or when's because you never know when a case is still, you know, whatever. But we're doing surveillance on these people because we're going to follow them. But when we get rid of this guy, we're going to follow these people. We're going to outfit them with some equipment and some money, and they're going to go to this location and make a purchase. But they can't get rid of this guy, and he's like in their car. And he's trying to get some money of his own because he knows that they're about to go purchase narcotics. So he wants to get some money of his own so he can buy it too. Long story short, this person is texting and saying like, we can't get rid of this guy. He's like trying to pick up money from this person and that person. So he says to them like, hey, take me over here by Target. I got someone that lives over there. I'll go see them. So it took a long shot and I was like, hey, when he gets out of the car, just drive away. And they're like, all right. So he got out of the car. They drove away to come meet me, but I've still got eyes on them through some of my people. And they're like, oh, he's coming back and he's looking for the car and he's mad. And oh, wait, he's going to the dumpster. And he goes over and gets him a piece of cardboard and a marker and like writes whatever message he wants to write on it, walks out to the red light and just sets up camp. So, you know, there's also that experience and there's that knowledge.
Which we needed to have that story. You have to go there. I needed to know something with you.
This was the discernment part because, you know, while I am trying to figure out life in those young days, which aren't that long ago, there's still that moment where, man, there's so many times that my son's asking me that question and I know the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
So I have to make a decision, and I can't swear that I've never said, like, man, that guy's burned every bridge in his family. He probably stole from his mother, and that's why he doesn't have a home. Because this is the real. Okay, this is the real. This is in my mind. This isn't coming out my mouth all the time to my son, because I don't want to create that monster. But it's those thoughts in my mind of, like, I know this person, and I know that he was stealing checks out of his mom's purse because she was nice enough to let him in the house because he didn't have shelter. But like at some point that bridge is burnt.
Yeah.
So that's tough. That, you know, in those moments, it's so tempting for a guy like me who's not mean at all. I'm not, you know, I won't say that I've never struggled with self-righteousness because I think we all do if we'll admit it. But trying to be mindful and trying to be helpful to my son and set him up in a way to think about this, I had to struggle with some of these things sometimes.
Yeah, because even sometimes in those moments, you just say it. This is honest truth. I feel like in that moment, I need to tell you the honest truth. And then it's like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have. So then I think as we develop as human beings, or maybe it's the older you get or your experiences, that changes your conversation that you're going to have with them. I know I've had to do that with 100%. My kids.
100%.
Yeah. And I had to be careful of not projecting. You know, I've got people within my family that have had those struggles and burned bridges and been at the cusp of homelessness and things like that. And I had to be careful not to project those people's stories and my frustration and my heartbreak for those people onto that person standing at the red light. You know.
So I've been in this town for 29 years now, and I mean, some of these folks that I have stopped to have a conversation with, to give a ride somewhere, because I mean they're carrying all this stuff. Maybe it's raining. You know, it's just me in the truck. I've always been very discerning about that. You know, if I've got one of the boys, if I got all the boys, I ain't got space. You know, if I got one of the boys, I'll say something to them to give them a little heads up about what's about to happen. Offer somebody a ride. But I mean, it's been people I've had in class. Twice it's been people that have been on my middle school basketball team from 2004.
For sure.
You know, and so it's just, it's worth the stop. But you don't know what you're going to get. but I'll just keep returning back to it's worth it. It's worth the try.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing that I shared with Kyler pretty early on, and if I would have known I was going to go here, I would have looked it up so I could tell you exactly who he was talking to. But there's a quote that comes from Abraham Lincoln. At some point in the war, he had a general that could have probably ended the war. He could have won a pretty important battle. He was just coming off of a really rough one where he had lost a lot of people and some things had happened. And he ends up not, whatever move it was he could have made, he didn't make it. And so letters go to Abraham Lincoln, and he's got people close around him, like calling for this guy's head, essentially. Not his literal head, but like you need to replace him. And he spouts off some beautiful wisdom like, and I can't quote it verbatim again, I'm going from memory alone here, but something to the effect of, if I were a seed planted in the same spot, under the same conditions with the same sunlight and water as this guy, I may have very well grown into the exact same tree. And I'm like, So I would apply that to situations like these, because that's the best floor I had for like, Kyler, there's a lot of things in life I don't understand, but I do know that throughout my life there has been like grace and mercy and all of these things that have shown up and were real to me. And, if I look back on it, I wasn't smart enough to make some of the decisions I've made, and some of them have been happy accidents, as we've already talked about. But I can't apply that to my own life and not apply it to that guy's too.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on unless you guys have something to add to that right now.
No, you're good.
All right, let me turn it back to a little more lighthearted. Now, I have to preface this by saying I have seen Paul Salzwell ask a friend in their driveway as we were about to leave on a trip, "Hey, man, you got something I can grab to drink or grab to eat or whatever?" And they're like, "Yeah, just go." Paul goes into the house, comes out with a whole hot dog with mustard on it and like something to drink. Is this a true story, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
All right. But now, I don't think this is the situation that I'm about to ask you about. I think it's more of maybe a first time visiting a friend's house or maybe a newer friend. But if I go to a friend's house and I'm not that familiar with them as you are with our friend Richard, they offer me food. Do I take it?
Yes. I don't even know why we're hesitating. Yes, Josh.
Some people.
I don't know.
Now, hang on.
My first instinct.
Mean what you say and say what you mean. I'll practice with you.
Tell me your first instinct.
My first instinct depends on the situation. Like if I'm just coming to, Paul's not going to be an example, but maybe if I come to Matt's house and he's like, I'm hanging out, like, we've talked about hanging out, seeing your setup at your house, and we're just hanging out. And I've already eaten dinner, and you're like, "Hey, are you hungry? Do you want something?" No, I'm good. Even though if you may be eating dinner or you offering it, I'm okay. I don't need anything. But maybe, I don't know, like if it was a cookie or something, maybe, I don't know. It just depends on the situation. Like, I don't know. But I think like if I'm at, like I've got cousins now, like when we go to their house and we go to their house several times throughout the year, like we walk in, man, if my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner, if it's all at their house, and if it's not an organized meal, I make my own. I'm making my kids breakfast. Like I'm just pulling stuff out of the refrigerator and we're just doing it. Yeah. And that's just life. So when they come to my house, whatever y'all want, we just do it.
So you changed the game when you said family though, because cousins.
It's true.
Like, yeah.
And I don't think I have friends well enough that I've hung out with and on that level to just go in their house and get a hot dog, like without them offering it. I guess.
Let's be reminded. Okay, let me remind you something. Food is powerful.
Yeah, totally.
Food is an invitation. Food is an invitation to take a relationship to a whole other place.
Yeah. Because
you don't stuff your face in front of just anybody.
Yeah.
So if they're going to offer, and I want to deepen this relationship, I'm going to say yes. I probably learned this from Zach Rowland in his invitation to come to Mexico for a couple 10-day trips, to where food is part of the day. Like every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, midnight. There's always 4 meals. And there's always people there. It's not just the people that live in the house. Yeah. And there were no exceptions. There wasn't one day out of more than 20 days that I spent there on 2 separate trips where there wasn't just people coming in and out that did not live in that house because they knew there was going to be a meal there. And it brought just an awareness of how precious food can be to nurturing a relationship. Because when people fix food for you, they want you to try it. And so I lean toward, if they're offering, that means they want me to try it. They want me to experience it. They want more than polite. And this goes, you and I have had this conversation about the difference between being respectful and being polite. I don't want you to be polite to me. I want you to be respectful with me. So that brings me back to my first response is like, mean what you say and say what you mean. Now, I was raised to be a polite young man. Uh-huh. So there were times that I said yes when I wanted to say no, and there were times when I said no when I really wanted to say yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm done. I'm done being polite. But there's no way I'm going to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to be discerning, which is the theme of this whole entire day. Discern. It depends. Hey, play that card every time because it's going to be probably it's the card. It's the winning hand every single time. It depends. Figure it out. But let's make it. Yeah. If food is involved, it's an invitation to more than just food. It's food, and it's more. And I'm going to treat it as such.
So let me be sure I heard you right. It hasn't always been that absolute for you because you were polite.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the place this is coming from. I can remember, especially as a teenager, maybe going over at a buddy's house for the first time and, the mom's like, hey, you want something to drink? And I thought the polite thing to do was be like, no, thank you, ma'am.
Didn't want to bother her.
I didn't want to bother her. I didn't want to consume her stuff. I didn't. But
that's right.
Looking back now, it probably would have warmed that mama's heart if she could have quenched my thirst
100%.
or satisfied my hunger for sure. So that's kind of where I was going with that. And then there's this whole, I got to hear John Maxwell speak one time, and he was talking to a bunch of businessmen and a bunch of salesmen, and there's something in there. There's a nugget in there to where he says if you go to someone's house for the first time, you don't know them. You're making a pitch, and they say, hey, you want some water or something or coffee or what? He said, I don't care if you want it or not. You say, yes, I do. That would be great. I was, as a polite kid, I was like, what? just to hear different perspectives.
Yeah, it just takes a different perspective. And then it takes one choice for us to discover that, yep, most of the time, if not almost all the time. And I'm not going to blanket it. I'm not going to say 100%. I'm not going to say 0%. I'm not going to say everything. I'm not going to say nothing. You are giving me, this has been this way.
Yeah,
I'm
hearing something. Time. I know, I'm hearing something wild.
Better?
A little bit.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. No, but it changed my life forever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No, and I get that too. Like you talk about being polite, and my mind went to when I first started teaching, I did a lot of homebound services.
Yeah.
And I went to this one house, and wasn't very clean. It smelled like smoke all the time. I'd have to go home, wash my clothes, take a shower, just do all that. But I can remember one day this kid, it was hot outside, and this kid's like, you want a popsicle? No. Yeah. No, I do not want a popsicle. And I try to be polite. Like I didn't want to be rude, but I did not, based off my situation, right?
Yeah.
Kid brings me a popsicle. I had to eat the popsicle.
For sure.
Like I could not just hold it. I had to. And part of me still it still gets me a little bit, but you had to and I think maybe that goes back to the situation. Maybe not the situation like describe I'm at his house, I've already eaten, he's eaten. Hey, do you want some? No, I'm good. I've already eaten dinner. But maybe he's got people over. He's got food everywhere. Maybe I'm going to take that. I'm going to take a little bit and say I've done it just because I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thought. I've never really thought about it in that light. Even though I know that, I just never really thought about it and put pressure on it as we are now, to discuss these things.
Yeah.
Well, it's an invitation, and I think that's what I'm returning back to. It's just the power of the invitation. They're inviting us to share something. Food's personal.
Yeah.
They went and picked this food out of everything they could have picked, so that means it's theirs. Mm-hmm. You go to your kitchen, you go to my kitchen, different.
Yeah.
I think that's true. Yeah. Your refrigerator, my refrigerator.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah.
So it says something about us. So for me to offer, I am offering a part of myself. It's very personal. When you accept it, that means you are accepting me.
Yeah.
So when you're rejecting it, I'm not ready to say that that's disrespectful, because politeness has its place. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying there is this other place we can go with a stranger, with an acquaintance, and with a friend, and even family. It can go to a whole nother place. Where do the most meaningful conversations happen? At the kitchen table.
Yeah.
You're there, you're sipping coffee, time doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
You're sipping tea, you're sipping soda, you're taking small bites, making it last forever because you don't want to get up.
Yeah.
Think about your most meaningful relationships. So much of that relationship has been deepened through shared meals.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know when my last day on earth is. And I fully embrace that. I'm no longer scared of that. Yeah. I think about it constantly. It's just how my brain is wired. I always have, even as a kid, being scared of death. I'm no longer scared of death, but I still think about it all the time. And so now it just makes me just, man, when I am tuned in and I'm not exhausted, and I have some sleep and I can make decent decisions, like I'm looking for those opportunities. And I think food is, I love food. I love food. I love walking. Those are the two things that when you're with people, time does not exist. We are in this moment. And when the buzzer does sound on this walk or this meal, we'll have shared something significant. So the next time I see you, the handshake isn't awkward this time. The hug maybe fits this time. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to go back and rehash, here it comes again, weather, sports,
that's right,
or work, right?
Yes.
And we can get into something meaningful right away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of time doesn't exist, it does, and I want to be mindful of y'all's time. Mm-hmm. I'm not wrapping up just yet, but I'm getting close. I want to visit my last question to you, and we can be as quick as you want. If you have something great to add, by all means, go. I don't want to cut off a good story. This one's the hardest for me, and it's going to seem silly to my friend Paul Salzville over here, because this is, again, this question is geared for him. I already probably know the answer, but I want to give him a chance.
Why are you looking at Josh then?
I want to give him a chance to tell.
He wants to see my reaction. I want to give him like the hot dog.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. Who are you in a room of people that you don't really know? Let's say we're at a get-together. We could call it a party. I know who I am in that room. I'm the guy that's about to shake hands with whoever I committed to come see and tell them, hello, how you doing? And I'm going to grab a cracker on my way out the door.
You're not staying?
What I'm asking is,
okay,
are you the guy that stands in the corner awkwardly? Are you the guy that works the room and starts shaking hands and talking to people that you don't know? Who are you in that room?
You got to go first.
It's me.
He
already know your answer.
He doesn't, though. He doesn't.
Okay,
he doesn't know my answer.
I think it depends on the situation, right?
There he goes. He's playing that card. You gonna let him get away with that, though?
He got a little Matt Harris in him.
Like, I think we've even had this conversation, like, me as a person, like, and I struggle with, like, being social. Like, as a Josh Morris, the innovation specialist, okay, I can walk into any building in Bradley County Schools and I can have a conversation, talk about tech things, talk about your life, whatever, right? If I see those same people at Walmart that I've just told them about my weekend and all these awesome things, or I see them at a party.
You've shared this with us. Yeah.
I have to work to have a conversation. Yeah. Because to me, I'd rather walk into that party, say hello to who invited me. Uh-huh. If there's nobody else I'd know, I'm going to grab a cracker and I'm going to have to sit on the couch, or I'm going to stand in the corner, or I'll find some conversation that I can just be a part of and interject at times.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I go to those things where I don't know anybody, and then my magic powers happen and I can talk and have a great conversation. But I have to really.
Is that self-initiated, or is that based off some kind person in the room offering an invitation to you?
Yes and no. I think some of it, like, I have to self-initiate that and know that I can talk about this and know that I can have an important conversation and not just talk about the sports or the weather or school. I have to really work at it.
How many times in your life have you ever stepped into a circle and said, "Hey, everyone, I'm Josh. How are y'all?"
When I was the head football coach at Akeley Middle School, man, I had to do that all the time.
No.
Like, as Josh,
you're just a guy in the room. They don't know you. You're not going to, because that's different. We talk about power dynamics, and you put a man in charge of 100 kids, their families act different toward that. I'm talking about you have nothing to leverage here but a smile and a how you doing.
Not very often.
And now that's not a wrong answer. That's just a curiosity question for me.
I mean,
because
that's like
I'm that guy. I have to. I've done it before, but it's very forced and it's very unnatural for me. The more I do it, the easier it gets. But I'm often the guy that says, all right, I got a choice to make here. I can either, because I'm not standing in the corner awkwardly. I'm either getting in conversation and working this room or I'm leaving. Yeah. So I'm either going to,
or sometimes no other option.
There's no other
or
option.
Sometimes
like, there's almost no other option.
If I'm going to be awkward, I just hang out with Amber, or like we'll go places and my parents are there. There's somebody I know and I just gravitate to that. But then sometimes I surprise myself and I'm very social. I can do all the things. And I can't give you a reason why I do that. Yeah. It just kind of happens. Or you go in certain situations as your person and it just happens. You walk in. I didn't have a plan to be the social today, but I walk in and, hey, I was social. I walk out and I'm like, Amber, did you see me today? Like I talked to everybody. And because she knows that, like we'll be at times and she's like, I was like, man, I just wasn't talking to me. It was like, you need to work on it. And she'll tell me that. And I know that, but it just, I don't know. My comfort level is just to hang out, be a part of a conversation, but not really have any input. So I've had to really work on that.
Paul, talk to us.
What are you thinking my answer is?
I'm thinking, I just can see you. I can see you, is Senko in the right word, just cruising through this room. You don't care if everybody in the room's looking at you. Because that's the anxiety for me. If I'm not in a circle and protected by the conversation and the camaraderie of other people, and I'm standing in the corner awkwardly, whether they are or not, I feel like everybody's looking at me going, who's this idiot over here? Like that's a thing. That's within me. That's me being real here. I don't see you feeling that. Do you feel that?
I wish Sarah was here right now. She'd be laughing.
Would she?
Yes, because that is not me. That is not me.
I know. You're talking about?
I'm not shaking hands with everybody.
You're not working this room?
If I am not in that space of I have some sort of role, some sort of title in the room.
They know your name.
Okay. If I am, when you see head coach and you see us get together for team Thanksgiving, I will not see everybody. See that double negative? Yes. I will make sure that I do everybody because I'm that guy. And you've entrusted your girl to us.
Sure.
Not to just our team, but to us. And so I want to make sure that you know who I am. And so when you leave, you at least have a clue of who spends this much time. Parent-teacher conferences, I have this role to play. But I was that kid that moved 9 times in 13 years, 3 different states. I'm always the new kid. I'm always hiding in the shadows. And I'm always wanting someone to talk to me. I only need one person. Now, when I started traveling as a teacher, going to conferences, and then I started presenting at conferences, even the presentation part, okay, so I'm that thing. But even when I'm in other places, like Memphis was this last trip, I will go into a room and I will find, it's awkward, man, no way. I mean, boys, you're explaining everything that you're feeling, I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But this is what I'll do because I'm on the road. I will read the room and I will try to discover the one person that I really want to talk to. Because I overheard a conversation. I'm playing a spy game. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to do the 25-minute conversation. I'm all the way out here in Memphis. That is a complete just fluff.
Yeah.
I want to find that person who has already had a conversation with somebody, or maybe even it is the presenter, which back in the day would have totally intimidated me. I would never put my hand out. But now I want to it's risk and reward for me. I have to take this risk, which wouldn't be a risk to so many other people. We know people that work the room, no matter what.
My dad, he works every room. He's going to talk to everybody and figure out how they're related.
I don't know how he does it.
I don't know.
Because, I think I've told you a story. Like, even in high school, I wouldn't call to order a pizza on the phone because I didn't want to talk to a stranger.
Oh, wow.
I would break into a sweat. I was still doing that when I was calling 476-5040. Isn't that Papa John's?
I don't know.
I have no idea. It's saved in my phone.
It was the only available, when I was at Lee and
So hang on. So you're not? Are you calling the? Are you calling some girl's house and her dad answers and you say, hey, is Sarah there?
Eventually, but like...
Well, sure, eventually. That's the thing. That used to have to happen.
The breakthrough for me... Yeah, but I wasn't awkward. I didn't date well. I mean, Sarah was my real first, like, oh my word, this is going to last.
All right, that's a whole other episode, isn't it?
Yes. So you got to leave me alone.
Okay.
But we were RDs in the dorm, and I had to call 96 families.
Oh, no word.
And I just sweated through all 96 calls. And then in the end, I now had a magic potion that I could summon. Yeah,
well, it's like, you talk about, like, presenting, like, I've been to conferences. I'm going to present at one in December, and like going up and talking to presenters or talking people in that situation, like it's just, I don't think about it. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm very like, again, this sounds like an easy way out, but I'm very situational on my conversations.
Do you jump off cliffs?
No, it's terrifying. Roller coasters, forget it.
When I was a teenager, for sure.
Yeah.
Now,
no, never did that stuff.
I walked to the top of a cliff one time to show Kyler. As when he was pretty much, it's just been a year or two ago. Yeah. The Bluffs in Charlton, they're not the biggest cliffs ever.
Yeah.
And not only would I not have walked to the edge and jumped off, but once I got to the top, and you got to kind of walk down this little grade to get to the edge, I was like, oh, be careful, buddy. Be careful right here. Like we talked about this a while back. I feel like the fear of heights has grown in me. But yeah.
For 45 years, I jumped off of cliffs so I wouldn't be left out. And to show my kids, don't be scared. Because if dad's scared, you're going to be scared. And I don't want you to be scared, so I'm going to jump.
Yeah.
But I hate it. I hate the climb up. I hate the stare down. I hate the fall. And I love coming up out of the water. Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So for me, in those situations, what you're describing is I hate all of that. I hate the handshake. I hate the awkwardness. I don't know if I'm going to be rejected. I don't know if this is going to go awkward. I don't know if this is going to be boring.
Yeah.
And I love it when it's done and I can take something back and say, hey, Matt, I met this dude. I met this professor, and she said this thing that we had been talking about 2 weeks ago, and it just proves that, like, what we're thinking, we are not off base. Like, we're on to something here because there's already people doing the things that we wish we were already doing.
Yeah.
So we step pretty seamlessly into those because now we have someone who has gone before us. And so, to me, I don't know. You assume that about me, but not a chance in the world.
I have assumed that about you, even though I know you really well. I
take it as a compliment, though.
Hey, I do want you to think back on our conversation so far and realize that everything we just talked about is a social interaction or a perception, and I may go somewhere with this in the future. You just sort of kicked an anthill right there at the end, that jumping off cliffs. Like that may be we could talk about that. That's why I'm signaling and moving toward wrapping up, because I know if we go into that very far, we're going to talk forever. But
yeah, I got some thoughts on that one.
Yeah, so we're going to have to move along for today, people. Paul, you want to tell the people goodbye?
This is not goodbye, friend. This is see you later.
I knew you would say something like that.
Awesome conversation. I can't wait till next Monday.
Yeah, I can't wait. Hey, thank you again for listening. Please like, subscribe, share, do all those things because it helps us so much, and I hope that the conversations we're having will fall upon ears who may take something away from it and go, hey, here's 3 guys who literally have a podcast who have all just agreed that they're a shell in a room. Like, they're not outward beings.
Have more in common than we think.
Yep. All right, Josh, call it. Man, that's downright mindful. You've been listening to Downright Mindful with your hosts, Matt Paris and Paul Salzville. Produced by Josh Morris. Intro and outro production by Derek Kinsey. You can find us wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Thanks for listening.